I am rebuilding the X220 Martian frame with all the same components that was in it, except for the flight controller and the BTX. So if you'll notice here, I have got the motors and ESCs setting on the arms. I've got the flight controller just fitted there, and if you can tell, I have actually taken another Martian frame and cut out the bottom in order to have carbon on top of the arms. I have removed the PDB, so I'm not sure on the standoffs yet. I'd like to go with lower standoffs if possible, but if I do that, then I will not have the camera mount up here would work. I mean, I could 3D print something, but I really do like the camera mount, so I'm not for sure. I believe these are 35 millimeter standoffs right now. I've got it all the way down to 20, and I would love to get it, but I don't know the camera mount. Haven't quite decided yet, but that can always be changed out later. There it is. I'm going to get started getting the ESCs hooked up and the power cable with the XT60 on it. Hopefully I can get that done this morning. I'm hoping I can get this thing a little lighter. I would love to be at the 350 gram range, so when I do put the run cam on it, the run cam 2 for my HD footage, that we're still at about 400 grams. So yeah, still got our 2600 kV red bottoms, the non-S version. I'm hoping to maybe upgrade the motors on here to give it a little bit more power, but not right now. So yeah, I'm excited to rebuild this one. I don't know if I had posted a video about this yet, but it looks like the I did have the Matek F4 Pro on it, on this, and this quad was a tank. For some reason my video went out. I guess it was just some rain, or not rain, but just having some signal issues, which went away immediately. But I lost video, and I have never broken an arm, except for that time I broke an arm on it, and I had to replace the arm, which, if you know, the Matek has that sensor, current sensor on it, so you have to kind of rig the power wires, and the pad ripped off in mid-flight after about 6 batteries after I replaced the arm, so I'm assuming I kind of messed it up there. But hopefully this build turns out good. Alright, so I got everything, got the ESCs wired up, and the some things pre-ready to go here. So one thing I like to note here is, since this only has the signal wire, no ground pad for the signal, which I've got to where I leave that off on all of my quads, the ground wire for the signal. From the ESC, I just do the main voltage pads and then the signal wire. You know, I haven't had any problem with any kind of desyncs or anything with my other quads doing that. I ain't had any problem whatsoever. But the one thing that I do is to wrap the signal wire around the ground wire on your ESC, because it's in the same loop. If you take right here on your ESC, go back to our ESC. If you take and you touch your get your voltage meter and put it in continuity mode, and you touch here and here, they're on the same circuit. So basically you're limiting a wire, and then you wrap this signal wire around, and that prevents crosstalk and keeps it from the signal getting disrupted because of going around that ground. You know, I don't know all the technical about it, but I know that is the reason why when you buy ESC, that the ground signal and the signal are wrapped around each other. It prevents to prevent some crosstalk and noise coming from the power wire. So if you'll wrap that around your ground wire, it will pretty much do the same thing. I'm sure it's not as good as the tightly wrapped wires, because the more wraps you have, the better it does. But that's how I try to compensate with it. But this doesn't have a ground signal wire anyway, so I would have to just run it straight to my main ground pad anyway. So hadn't had any problems, so I'm gonna go with that for now. So basically just got my ESCs. I've tested the motors, make sure that they're all going the right direction and all of them work. I've got my Matek VTX ready to go. If you'll look at this from this side, you'll see that this is the video. This is the audio for the smart audio, and both of these right here, these are the same pad and these are the same pad. They both provide 5 volts. This is your ground side and this is your 5-volt side, and then here is your main voltage in, ground, and power. Looks like a pretty good VTX. I have it on another quad, haven't had any problems with it, but I haven't flew it that much either. So we'll see how it goes. This is so I got my camera for the 5 volts coming out. I still need to go into my flight controller. My video from my VTX will of course go, let's see if I can get it on camera a little bit better. Will go right here, and then your main voltage wires, which is right here, will go to your 9-volt and your ground here, and then your smart audio will go, just to double check here, looks like your smart audio goes right here on this pin right here, same side as the receiver, and then of course your cam wire that's going straight to your camera from my connector here right here goes to the cam wire on your board right here. So I'm not using the built-in 5-volt of the board. I'm going to use the built-in to the VTX. Hopefully that'll help get rid of some noise, because it's the power for the camera's on a different board. So hopefully that will be good. I don't know. It seems to work on my other build. So them are them wires, and then I got my XM Plus wired up. Of course, I'm going to trim these wires. And then if you look close here, you've got your ground here, your 5-volt here for your XM Plus, and then I'm not using telemetry, but I'll be using S-Bus, which is this one right here. Will be for my S-Bus. So yeah, I'm gonna finish wiring it up and I'll be back. Alright, so got the majority of it wired up here. Gotta do a few more touch-ups. I've done some checks. All motors run right. I can change VTX via the smart channel. My OSD seems to be fine. Motors are doing the right direction. I'm going with a new thing by trying to mount the antenna on the bottom plate instead of the top plate. That way it's easier to work on it. And when I take the top plate off, I'll see every little thing and not have to fight to get it back on, so hopefully that works. My Matek, since I'll be using smart audio, I don't see a reason to be able to see the lights. I feel safer with the heatsink pointing up. First of all, it will stay cooler. Second of all, I don't have to worry about that heatsink touching any parts on the board. But I did put a little bit of heat shrink around just from here to here, if you can't see it, heat shrink clear. And then I also put this tape around, not just to give this connector here a little bit of stress relief, which there shouldn't be any. All the stress should be on them ties, but you know, you never can be too careful. Video seems to be working right. I do have more purple standoffs, but not more red standoff. So I think I'm going to change out and put all purple standoffs on it. I've got my ESC guards that I'm still going to put on and run my antennas down the arms, because I seem to get just as good enough signal going down the arm as I do sticking up and having to fight with wire ties and whatnot. So so next time you see it, you should see it with the top plate on. Well, there it is. Do a little spin. Alrighty, so I got the top plate on there. Got it all ready to go. Got my props on there. Dial Cyclone 5045 Cs. So let's see, without the battery and the HD cam, how much do we get? 408. Yeah. So with the HD cam and the battery, this sucker's still going to be heavy. So, yay. Alright. Well, hopefully I'll get you some flight footage, some HD flight footage. So, alrighty, so we had some technical difficulties with this frame. For some reason, not necessarily with the frame, but with the Matek F405 all-in-one. I had the yaw twitch, which a lot of people were complaining about. So the thing is on my Space One frame, one I normally race with, I had a noisy setup. Had bad video noise with the Ambius, and when I traded over to the Matek, all my noise went away, and I didn't have to use any capacitors on it. With this set up with my Ambius Pro, no video noise, ran great, clear video. And then I got the yaw twitch on here. Basically, I can get it to hover off the ground, probably about 10% throttle, and if I gave it any throttle, it would do this and then try to do that, and kind of it was funny because it would go this and then it would start going back and back and back, and it wouldn't. And I couldn't get it to come back up. Every time I tried to give throttle, it would go kind of like a twist like that. So, you know, obviously I was kind of upset because I shouldn't have to put all these capacitors on it. The way I look at it is, if it requires me to have all these capacitors on my setup, then I would just assume to get a different flight controller. So that being said, I said, well, you know what, I'll temporarily put some capacitors on it and see if it makes it go away. Well, first of all, before I even put any capacitors on it, I wanted to opt it to Betaflight 3.2, hoping that maybe they put some kind of fix in it that would get rid of it. It was still there. I was running on 8K. People were saying, well, lower the PID loop. I went to 4K. Still had the same issue. Put dynamic filtering, hoping maybe that would filter out some of the noise. Still did not. So, which, like I said, I didn't have any noise before, so I don't get it. I think I have a flight controller that's not as good as the first one I got. That's the only thing I can think of. But anyways, I put these capacitors on each arm. They're Panasonic just double check there. I think they're 25 volt. They're 25 volt 330s on each arm. Once again, some people are putting it on the flight controller. You need to put it as close to the noise source as you can, and the noise source is the ESCs. I had to put them here. You know, I took it for one flight because I didn't really put my heat shrink on here or anything like that. I just kind of rigged it up there just to see if it was worth the trouble, and put it on 8K and flew it on stock beta flight settings with my own rates, and flew a whole pack, pumping the throttle up and down. Didn't go over trees or anything, didn't quite trust it that much, but just I ran a full battery back and forth and doing some flips and stuff low to the ground, and there was no yaw twitch. Luckily this is a big frame and I can put all the capacitors on here, but you know, I think you shouldn't have to do that. Not when I didn't have video noise before, so it doesn't make no sense to me. But I've got the capacitors on there. I'm gonna be doing getting this all straightened up, and hopefully with my heat shrink these capacitors down, so hopefully they won't break off and create a short or ruins my whole quadcopter because I had to put capacitors on it. Also, this little thing back here, because it's behind this prop line protecting it, it just took a beating because it was so close to the ground. Probably wouldn't have had this issue if I didn't have the yaw twitch, but you know, it took a beating. So I'm going to try to get it off this back plate a little bit with a 3D printed part, and also I'm going to move this my receiver down here because the tape that's not doing very good to hold it up there. This is the 3D print that I decided to go with. I did find it on Thingiverse, but I did some modifications. So I got the antenna where it's coming out the middle of the quad. Also what I did is I put a cut right here, and that way I can stick the antenna in here instead of SMA, and where I can zip tie it right here, so all the stress is on the antenna and not the SMA connector. So I think that's going to work out pretty good. This is a Triumph antenna that the cap has come off of, had some cutting cuts right here. Antenna still works good. It just took a beating at my last race. So I wood glued this back together and put some heat shrink tubing over here, and then I'm going to tie that down, and it should be pretty good as far as durability. And then if it doesn't, you know, I'm just replace the antenna, I guess. This right here is TPU, so it should have a little bit of give in order to, hopefully I can keep from breaking this antenna. So alrighty, so we're going to get this back together, and I'll give you a few videos of the process getting it back together, and hopefully we can do some tuning. Alright, just to show my process here, I'm on my last ESC of getting the heat shrink on it. So just to show you my process here, taking a small piece of heat shrink. Well, first of all, I'm undoing the motor wires, and then sliding a small piece of heat shrink over the end of the ESC and the cap, and then I'm putting the large piece on there, and it allows me to slide up to here and then still be able to pull it down, and then also my motor wires back on. So you can look over here, I've got my full shrink here, and then I've got my small piece here. What I've done is just left this so I can do some testing first to make sure everything goes good, and then I'll heat shrink that. If you look over here, this is where I'm going to mount my XM Plus, and then I'll bring the antennas back around to the arms. So lucky I'd left enough wire right there, or that would have been in trouble there. So all right, this is just before I hit the top plate on. Got my ESCs shrink wrapped, my ESC guards put on there, which on this build I did change to TPU, and we'll see how good them protect the ESCs. The other ones were cracking eventually, so I got tired of replacing them. So TPU motor guards, and got it all wrapped up and made sure the motors are turning in the right direction. The only thing I've changed is just redid the ESCs, so we shouldn't have any yaw twitches, but we'll see. I'm going to be putting the top plate on. Alrighty, so got her all back together with my caps and my new antenna mount. So hopefully we'll be able to fly it now with the capacitors on there. Like I said, I haven't changed anything yet, so we're going to take it for a test flight, and hopefully we can get a whole battery out without breaking an arm, because, well, if the arm breaks on here, it's going to be I'll have to take the whole thing apart to get it changed. I kind of have a theory that why I didn't have problems with my first one, and that was because I had the XT60 plug pointing backwards, which in return required me to have a 0 yaw on my configurator. So I think that 270 yaw is causing some problems too. Just my opinion, but I wouldn't know until I changed it around and then took the capacitors off, and I'm not going through all that. So once again, I've got beta flight 3.2 on this one, the release candidate that actually shows up in the configurator. Didn't have to specially download it anywhere. I thought this did take the Ombius Pro F4 firmware, but it actually has a Matek 405 firmware to put on here. So well, we'll see how it goes. Alright, so it looks like with a 1500 battery, my 1500 milliamp battery, my Run Cam 2, and everything that's going to be all up weight in the air with HD footage, we're looking at 668 grams. Wow, this is a heavy quad. So I just thought I'd do a little voiceover on this flight video. It flies very good except for low throttle punch outs. So I'm still getting the yaw twitch even with the caps. You'll see later on in the end of the flight video, you're seeing it right here how the camera's jumping. First of all, I just apologize for the foggy lens there, but I only did one HD footage. Yeah, just kind of watch this a little bit here, and you'll notice that at low throttle, a little close one there, but you'll notice that at low throttle punches, I really give it gas at low throttle and still do that jerk. So, I mean, it flies really good. See right there? I know it also looks like oscillation, but it's not oscillation. You'll see at the very end of the video. I just do a little circles around and you'll see it jitter every time I punch it. I was hoping it'd go away because it flies really good, except for that little spot. See it?
I was trying to go back and forth, just seeing, maybe thinking it was in my head, but no, it's there. You're going to see it here at the end. I know I keep saying that, but it's just, you know, the thing is just hard to trust it when I know there's something still wrong with it. So here we're going, fixing to do a bunch of circles here, and you'll see it. I'm doing some flips now, I don't know why, but you ready to see it? Do low throttle punches. Alright, here we go. See it? See a little jump every time I hit the throttle? Yeah.